All right, welcome back everyone for another deep dive. This time we are going all in on Bitcoin's wild ride in 2024.
Yeah, Bitcoin in 2024.
We got a whole stack of articles here.
It's going to be a big one.
Yeah, and let me tell you, it was not exactly smooth sailing for the world's most famous cryptocurrency.
Lots of twists and turns.
Definitely, we're talking all-time highs, political drama, and even a new tech twist that had everyone buzzing, so buckle up.
Yeah, 2024 really felt like the whole Bitcoin story in a nutshell.
Right.
You got the promise, the volatility, the is this finally it question.
And that question pops up every year.
Every single year. So yeah, get ready because it was anything but boring.
Okay, let's jump right in. And I think the best place to start is with the news that even made Wall Street do a double take. Bitcoin ETFs finally getting approved in the U.S.
Huge moment.
I mean, for years, the SEC was basically a brick wall.
Right.
But then BlackRock comes in with its ETF proposal.
And that felt like things might actually change.
Yeah, and sure enough, by January, boom, multiple Bitcoin ETFs are approved.
Floodgates open.
It felt like it, yeah.
It was more than just a regulatory change. It was symbolic.
How so?
Imagine trying to invest in gold back in the day. You'd need vaults, security, a whole big thing.
Oh, yeah.
But then along come gold ETFs, and suddenly you can bet on gold's price without all that hassle.
Ah.
That's what Bitcoin ETF did.
So easier access for the average person.
Through their regular brokerage accounts, no more messing around with complicated crypto exchanges.
Yeah, worrying about losing your digital keys and stuff like that.
Exactly. Big barrier removed.
Definitely a game changer, especially for folks who might have been a little intimidated by, all the technical stuff.
For sure. And the impact was almost immediate.
Oh, yeah.
Wave of new investors came rushing in, and Bitcoin's price, well,
It took off.
it took off, yeah. March 2024, it just smashed through all the previous records, soared past $73,000.
Wow. So easier access, more demand, price goes up.
Basic economics.
It seems pretty straightforward.
There's
Sure, but
Bitcoin is never straightforward.
yeah. Right, because I was going to say, our articles also mention some ups and downs throughout the year. It wasn't all just straight up.
Yeah, Bitcoin's price isn't just driven by investor enthusiasm.
What else plays a role?
Global events. And 2024 was a roller coaster on that front, too.
Oh, yeah, it was a crazy year globally.
Definitely.
We had those rising tensions in the Middle East.
Always makes investors nervous.
Yeah, then the German government deciding to sell off some of that Bitcoin they'd confiscated, like throwing gasoline on a fire.
And we can't forget the Federal Reserve.
Oh, right, those interest rate hikes.
A lot of uncertainty swirling around.
Makes sense that would make investors skittish, especially with something like Bitcoin.
When the world feels wobbly, people tend to flock to what they see as safe, like the US dollar.
And that affects Bitcoin,
Exactly. The Fed's interest rate hikes made holding dollars more attractive.
which puts pressure on Bitcoin.
Exactly.
So even with the easier access through ETFs, Bitcoin couldn't totally escape the pull of all that global stuff.
It's a reminder that Bitcoin is still connected to the wider financial system.
Deeply connected.
For sure. And then things get even more interesting.
Lay it on me.
November rolls around, U.S. presidential election, and who wins a second term?
Let me guess, Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. Now, during the campaign, he was making some pretty bold pro-Bitcoin statements,
Like what?
talking about making the U.S. a Bitcoin superpower.
And how did the Bitcoin world react to that?
They went wild.
A president openly backing crypto? Yeah, that's not an everyday thing.
Imagine a pro-crypto Congress backing Trump's vision,
Okay.
potentially creating a strategic Bitcoin reserve.
So the U.S. government holding, what, billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin?
It was a dream scenario for a lot of Bitcoin enthusiasts.
Hold on. So did any of this actually happen? Did the U.S. really start buying Bitcoin?
Well, you got to separate the campaign promises from reality.
Right.
While Trump's win created a ton of buzz, that strategic Bitcoin reserve, well, it never really materialized.
It stayed a speculation.
But Bitcoin's price definitely reacted.
How so?
It smashed through $100,000 for the first time ever.
Just like that.
In December 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about the power of politics and sentiment.
Wow. A wild ride fueled by hope and uncertainty.
That's Bitcoin for you.
That's Bitcoin. But it wasn't just the everyday folks getting caught up in the excitement. The big institutions, Wall Street, they were starting to dip their toes in the Bitcoin pool too.
This was another big trend in 2024.
Institutional adoption going mainstream.
Exactly. We're talking Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, some of the biggest names in finance,
They were buying Bitcoin.
starting to invest, yeah, mainly through those ETFs we talked about.
So the old guard finally coming around to Bitcoin. Interesting.
Maybe, or maybe they just saw an opportunity.
But were there any companies that really went all in on Bitcoin?
One of the most prominent examples is Michael Saylor and his company, MicroStrategy.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of them.
They went super aggressive, buying tons of Bitcoin, holding it as their main treasury reserve asset.
So they basically put their money where their mouth was, and how'd that work out for them?
Their stock price soared along with Bitcoin.
That's a big bet that paid off.
Big time. It even got other companies thinking about doing the same thing.
Who else?
There were even rumors that Microsoft was looking into a major Bitcoin purchase.
Wow.
But in the end, they didn't go through with it.
I see. So MicroStrategy, once a pretty traditional software company, now almost synonymous with Bitcoin.
It really shows the power of this tech.
Yeah, but let's not forget, amidst all this excitement, Bitcoin went through one of its signature events, the halving.
Right, I know this might sound like we're getting into the technical weeds here,
A little bit.
but it's important.
Okay, so break it down for me. What is the halving?
It's a fundamental part of how Bitcoin works.
Right.
Happens roughly every 4 years. Basically, it's a pre-programmed event where the reward Bitcoin miners get for verifying transactions gets cut in half.
So less Bitcoin is created, even though demand is growing.
You got it. And that means
Higher prices,
basic economics.
by supply and demand.
And this particular halving was a big deal because it happened when Bitcoin was already getting more and more popular.
Yeah, mainstream attention was growing.
Exactly.
So the halving, it's like a built-in scarcity mechanism.
Keeps things interesting.
For sure. But wait, there's more, right?
There's always more with Bitcoin.
Our notes mentioned something called runes entering the scene around this time.
Ah, yes. Runes. Now, this is where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Imagine Bitcoin, not just as a digital currency, but as a platform where you can create and manage your own tokens.
Oh, okay.
That's what runes enabled.
So it's like building a whole new ecosystem on top of the Bitcoin blockchain.
Exactly. Instead of just sending Bitcoin back and forth.
You could create and trade all kinds of digital assets.
Using the same secure and decentralized network.
Got it.
And that's where the excitement started, and the controversy too.
Why the controversy?
Some people saw runes as this incredible leap forward for Bitcoin. They saw a future where Bitcoin wasn't just about money, but about a whole ecosystem of digital assets.
And of course, where there's innovation, there's usually a meme coin frenzy not far behind.
You said it, runes made it super easy to create new tokens,
Right.
and the meme coin community, well, they loved it.
So we had a bunch of new meme coins popping up, probably a lot of animal themes.
Oh yeah, animal themes, internet jokes, pop culture references, the whole works.
I guess that's the internet's playful side coming out.
But this playful experimentation also raised some eyebrows in the Bitcoin community.
I see. So what were they concerned about?
Some argued that runes were clogging up the network,
Okay.
leading to higher transaction fees. They worried that it could mess with Bitcoin's main function as a payment system,
So you have people who see runes as this amazing new thing,
expanding Bitcoin's potential.
and others who are worried about them messing with Bitcoin's core purpose.
Exactly, a real clash of visions.
And as someone just trying to make sense of all this, where does that leave me?
There's no easy answer.
That's fair.
But that's also makes it so fascinating. Bitcoin is still evolving. Its future is being shaped by all these debates and experiments.
So the key is to understand the different sides and then form your own opinion.
Exactly. Stay informed and keep learning.
Okay, so runes were a big development, but let's zoom out for a second.
Sure.
We've talked about record highs, politics, institutional adoption, and this whole tech shakeup. What does it all mean for Bitcoin in the big picture?
That's the million-dollar question. We're seeing signs that Bitcoin is becoming more mainstream.
Like how?
The ETFs, the big financial institutions getting involved, the political conversations, it all points to growing acceptance.
But then you have the German government selling Bitcoin and all the uncertainty about regulation. It's like one step forward, two steps back.
Exactly, and that's just how Bitcoin is.
It's unpredictable.
It's still relatively young. Its path is anything but a straight line.
And that makes it so interesting.
It's a story that's still being written.
I like that.
The future is wide open.
So as this story unfolds, what should people be paying attention to? What are the key things to watch for?
Keep an eye on how governments around the world respond to Bitcoin.
Will they embrace it or crack down on it?
Exactly. Also watch institutional adoption. Will more big players jump in or stay cautious?
Good point. What
And
else?
pay attention to the technological advancements, what new innovations will come along, and how will they shape Bitcoin's future?
So basically, stay informed and buckle up.
Because it's going to be another wild ride.
I think that's a good place to wrap up part one of our deep dive into Bitcoin's crazy year.
Yeah, 2024 was a big one.
But there's more to uncover.
We've only just scratched the surface.
Exactly. So stay tuned for part two, where we'll delve even deeper into the twists and turns that made 2024 such a pivotal year for Bitcoin.
It could be good.
See you there. So, as we dig deeper into these articles, it's becoming more and more obvious that 2024 wasn't just about Bitcoin's price going up and down.
Yeah, it was about, well, the underlying technology.
Evolving.
Yeah, evolving and sparking some serious debate along the way.
Definitely. And I think one of the most interesting parts of that evolution was the rise of those runes.
Yeah, runes push the boundaries of what's possible with Bitcoin.
I'll be honest, this is where I start to feel a little out of my depth.
Fair enough, it can get pretty complex.
But I'm all ears.
Okay, well, think about it this way. Bitcoin, at its core, is a decentralized public ledger.
Right, like a giant digital record book.
Exactly, where transactions are recorded and verified.
Makes sense.
But then, in 2023, with those ordinals inscriptions, people realized they could attach little pieces of data to those transactions, like images or text.
So it's like, I don't know, adding a little note to your payment saying, thanks for the coffee.
That's a great analogy. Now take that concept a step further. Imagine creating programmable tokens that can represent anything. Digital art, virtual game items, all built on the Bitcoin blockchain.
That's what runes did.
Exactly.
So instead of just sending Bitcoin back and forth,
you could create and trade all sorts of digital assets.
using that same secure, decentralized network.
That's the idea. And that's where the excitement started, and the controversy too.
Why the controversy?
Well, some people saw runes as this incredible leap forward.
Okay.
They imagined a future where Bitcoin wasn't just about money, but about managing a whole ecosystem of digital assets.
It's a big shift.
Definitely. And of course, where there's innovation, there's often a meme coin frenzy not too far behind.
Meme coins, those are those fun, often animal-themed tokens, right?
You got it. And runes made it super easy to create those tokens on the Bitcoin blockchain.
So naturally, a bunch of new ones popped up.
And some of them, well, they saw those characteristic price surges, the kind that can leave you scratching your head.
So while institutional investors were getting serious about Bitcoin, the meme coin craze was adding another layer of, what's the word, exuberance.
Yeah, exuberance is a good word for it. But this playful experimentation also raised concerns within the Bitcoin community.
What were they concerned about?
Well, some argued that these runes were clogging up the network, leading to higher transaction fees. Remember those? They worried it could hinder Bitcoin's primary function as a payment system.
Right. If it's too slow or expensive to use, that's a problem.
Exactly. So you have this clash of visions, those who see runes as expanding Bitcoin's potential, and those who worry about them, well, detracting from its core purpose.
That's a pretty fundamental debate.
It goes to the heart of what Bitcoin is and what it should be used for.
As someone trying to understand all of this, where does that leave me? It sounds like there's no easy answer.
You're right, there isn't. But that's what makes it so interesting. Bitcoin is still evolving.
It's a work in progress.
Its future's being shaped by these debates and experiments.
So the key takeaway is to understand all the different perspectives.
Yeah, see the potential benefits and risks, and form your own informed opinion.
Okay, I can do that. So runes were a big development in 2024, but let's zoom out for a second. We've talked about record highs, political influence, institutional adoption, even this technological shakeup with runes. What does it all mean for Bitcoin in the grand scheme of things?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Well, we're definitely seeing signs that Bitcoin is moving further into the mainstream.
What makes you say that?
Well, think about it. The approval of ETFs, major financial institutions getting involved, even all the political talk about it, it all points to growing acceptance.
But then you have things like the German government selling off some of their Bitcoin and the ongoing uncertainty about regulation. It's like, I don't know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Bitcoin.
What do you mean?
It's still young. Its path is anything but predictable.
And that makes it so captivating.
Exactly. It's a story that's still being written. The future is wide open.
I like that. So as this story unfolds, what should we be paying attention to? What are the key things to watch for?
Well, first, I'd say watch how governments around the world respond to Bitcoin.
Right. Will they embrace it or try to control it?
Exactly. Also keep an eye on institutional adoption, Will we see more big players jumping in, or are they going to stay cautious?
And I guess we should also keep an eye on the technological advancements, right?
Absolutely. What new innovations will emerge, and how will they shape Bitcoin's future? That's a big one.
So basically, stay informed and buckle up. It's probably going to be another wild ride.
That's a good way to put it. Bitcoin never disappoints in that regard.
Speaking of wild rides, we've only just scratched the surface of what happened in 2024. There are a few more twists and turns to explore that really highlight just how unpredictable and captivating the world of Bitcoin can be.
You're right, and one of those twists involves a deeper look at MicroStrategy's all-in approach to Bitcoin.
Yeah, they went all in, buying up huge amounts of it.
It wasn't just a simple bet, it was a calculated strategy, and there are potential risks and rewards that are worth understanding.
Let's dig in then. I'm curious to hear more about why they did it and what it says about the relationship between traditional finance and this new world of crypto. Okay, so we know MicroStrategy went all in on Bitcoin, buying a ton of it and holding it like a major asset.
It was a bold move.
For sure. So what was the thinking there? Seems kind of risky for a public company.
It was risky, no doubt, but it wasn't just a random decision.
So there was a strategy.
Definitely. MicroStrategy, led by Michael Saylor, they really believed that Bitcoin was a better store of value than traditional assets.
You mean like cash and bonds?
Exactly, especially with all that rising inflation.
So they were hedging against the dollar potentially losing value.
Right. They saw Bitcoin as, I guess you could say, digital gold.
I see. Scarce asset that could hold its value, maybe even go up a lot over time.
That was the bet, and it seemed to pay off
Their stock price went way up.
big time. Along with Bitcoin, they became like Bitcoin heroes.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing, was it? Our articles mentioned there were risks too.
Oh, for sure.
Like what?
Well, having so much of their money in Bitcoin meant they were really exposed to its volatility.
So if the price crashed, they'd be in trouble.
Exactly. And there were a lot of people who thought it was a bad idea.
They said it would backfire.
They did. It was a high-stakes gamble.
They were betting the company's future on Bitcoin, basically.
In a way, yeah. And it shows how institutional adoption of Bitcoin is still all over the place.
What do you mean?
Some companies like MicroStrategy are all in.
Right,
Others
others
are more cautious, maybe just dipping their toes in with ETFs or smaller investments.
makes sense. So the big picture is still kind of uncertain.
Yeah, how it all plays out in the long run, who knows?
That's what keeps things interesting.
That's Bitcoin for you. Unpredictable and always changing.
You know, it's funny. We started this whole deep dive talking about Bitcoin hitting record highs.
Right.
But the more we dug in, the more I realized there's so much more to it than just the price.
It's not just numbers on a chart.
It's this whole technological and social revolution,
Yeah.
right?
It is. Bitcoin challenges how we think about money, power, control, the whole system.
It makes us rethink everything,
Yeah, like it's holding up a mirror to society.
reflecting all our hopes and fears about the future.
Exactly. On one hand, you have the potential for more financial freedom, a fairer system.
Where people have more control over their own money.
Right. But then there's also the fear,
The
right?
fear of change, the volatility, the unknown.
Yeah, and the potential for things to go wrong, scams, making existing inequalities even worse.
It's a double-edged sword.
That's a good way to put it. Bitcoin's decentralized nature makes it both powerful and hard to control.
So, where does all this leave us? What should our listener take away from this deep dive?
I think the most important thing to remember is that Bitcoin isn't just an investment. It's an idea.
It's bigger than that.
It's a movement challenging the way things are and making us think differently about how the world works.
Whether it succeeds or fails, it's already having a huge impact.
Absolutely.
Any final thoughts to leave our listener pondering?
How about this? Imagine a world where Bitcoin is truly mainstream,
Oh.
not just for speculation, but for everyday transactions, for sending money across borders, for building a whole new financial system that's more inclusive and transparent.
That's a big what if.
What would that world look like? What opportunities would it create? What challenges would we have to overcome?
That's a lot to think about, and I think that's a good place to leave it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Bitcoin's crazy year. It's a world that's complex, constantly changing, and always full of surprises.
That's Bitcoin.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.